going on, people? Rasati out here in Singapore. Thank you so much for joining into the Night Owl podcast. And as always, I appreciate every last one of you. It's been such a tremendous journey so far, and I've been enjoying recording all these podcast episodes. Yeah, I've tried to keep it as simple as possible. I've finally added, an intro and everything. But for the most part, I try really hard not to edit what I'm doing. I try really hard not to change the way I speak, to script anything as much as possible, because I want it to be like a live channel, right? I want it to come from me in the moment as I think of, examples, ideas, people, things that I can relate my information to. And for the most part, I think it's been working pretty well. So as always, it's taken from life itself, what's going on in and around my house, my home, my business. And I try really hard to pay attention to what's going on in the world as well, because there are always underlying human relations type issues that come up. And this is the reason I'm in business in the first place. I wish people taught this in school. I wish little kids had the opportunity to learn what to do with their emotions, whether the emotions are valid or not. When they're valid, what do you do about them? What can't you control? All that stuff would be really, really helpful to young kids. And you know what? If there isn't already a solution, I'm going to find a way to provide the solution myself. It's just the way I've been doing it. But in the meantime, I have the podcast. I'm here documenting everything as I go along, realizing that, you know what? Some things are kind of trend in Singapore. Some things are kind of trend across the world. And I'm trying really hard to figure out why things are the way that they are. What are these people trying to accomplish by behaving in these particular patterns? What are they trying to do when they bully other people or try to goad people into difficult conversations, or they ask loaded questions? Oh my gosh, loaded questions. Can we talk about that for a minute? I have been in so many different situations throughout my life, actually, where someone will ask a loaded question and I know full and well what's going to end up happening, but I can't help myself, but I end up answering. Now, for the most part, lately, when I've been asked a loaded question, I know what's going to happen, and I try really hard to sidestep the issue. In some situations where I know that they're trying really hard to get me to answer the question anyway, regardless of what I've said, regardless of the excuses I've given, like this is not a good thing, let me not answer this, this is not going to end well, kind of thing. I know that for the most part, they're looking for ammunition to keep themselves safe later. They want a reason to be able to fight later because they don't feel secure about the connection. It's nothing they've ever experienced before. They're afraid that if they trust it, they'll be burned like they've been burned before. But the point is, at some point, there is no choice but to trust. Literally speaking, if you want to trust someone, you have to go ahead and trust them and then allow them the opportunity, the vulnerability of yourself, to be hurt or dismissed or rejected or abandoned or any one of 100 different things. But the point is, you got to trust first. It's got to come with that. Now, a lot of the times that I speak to my clients, they're looking for a way to trust their partners, and they've got it in a, 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of situation. They want to trust, but they're going to test them every step of the way, or they're going to check behind them every step of the way, or they're going to ask, for confirmation or a GPS tracking system. Where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you now? I get it. You want to control the situation, but when it's controlled like that, there's a flip side of that as well. I knew when I was growing up, when I first had my very, very, very first boyfriend in college, right? I knew that I wanted them to love me. I also knew I didn't want to take the chance that they wouldn't love me, so I would do everything I could to change myself into the kind of person that they would appreciate. And it's based on all the intel they were giving me. They would say, like, this person hurt me like this a while back, or these people, were constantly checking up on me. They wouldn't let me breathe. They wouldn't give me the space I needed to just be myself. And I would do all of that. I would take all of that data and I would build myself accordingly. But that also means, as I'm building myself like custom made for what he wanted, I was muting certain parts of myself that weren't naturally like that. I love to sing, and my first boyfriend had a problem with the sound of my voice. He hated the fact that I have a deep, husky voice. He doesn't like the fact that I can sing lower than he can. So he would tell me not to sing because it was not pleasing to him. And so for a long time, I stopped singing. It was the reason I hesitated so long to even start this podcast, because I didn't like the sound of my voice. It wasn't until Wendy from Confident Success actually told me, hey, you know what? I need someone to lead a meditation. I find your voice very soothing. Would you mind? And I was like, okay. I don't know if I like the sound of my voice, but if you're saying it's soothing, I'm going to trust you and I'm just going to do what you want because it's for your audience anyway. So if they decide they don't like my voice, then I have nothing to lose. I didn't lose anything from my brand itself. So I took that advantage. But the point being that I adjusted myself for this one person and it affected me for so long. Now, when someone asks you a loaded question or they're giving you a choice of something where you know both situations are going to end up terribly wrong, You have the right to say no. You have the right to sidestep that question. But the point being, you need to also understand why they're asking the loaded question in the first place. It may be a little bit more than you're ready to, dig into, but the point is they're asking for a reason. It's a measure of control. Now back to the story. The reason I stopped asking for confirmation of love and I didn't force him to show me that he could or couldn't love me, and I didn't really draw any boundaries back then, is because obviously I didn't know how, and I thought drawing a boundary would push them away, which means I was deciding for the boyfriend at the time that he was not going to be able to respect the fact that I had a boundary, and he was going to walk away the minute I said no about anything. So I didn't test the theory, which means that it could have ended a way sooner than it was or did, right? But I controlled the outcome, which meant that the pain that I experienced as a result was prolonged unnecessarily. So here's the thing. I realized from that first relationship that the next relationship was going to have to be a little bit more on my terms. I was going to have to speak up a little bit more, or I was not going to get any of my needs met. They would get everything they needed. I would get nothing because I wasn't speaking up. I wasn't showing up in the relationship. So the second relationship, the man I married, right? It ended up being a situation where I didn't want to tell him how to love me because I still had this little bit of an ego chip on my shoulder that said, well, if I tell him and he does it, he's doing it because I told him to, not because he wants to. But there's a fine line to that too. I can't control the relationship and expect it to be a relationship. Just like he can't control me, expect me to love him because he controls me. That's not how you keep someone in line. Think of it in terms of training a puppy. They're going to do what they want to do. And until you understand why they chew up all your shoes and why they, destroy furniture or tear up toilet paper or pee in corner, whatever, until you understand why they do the behaviors that they do, you're not going to be able to train them effectively so you get what you need and they get what they need as well. It may be something as simple as getting them rawhide and paying attention to when it's getting ready to finish so you have another rawhide ready. But if you don't think about what they're doing, if you just blindly react to what's happening, you're not going to get it anywhere at all. So, when it comes to situations in a relationship, whether it's parents, whether it's friends, whether it's love, whether it's children, whatever, colleagues, students, anything, any human type relationship, if you find the need that you have to control it by asking certain questions or checking to see if they still love you or not, the fact that you have a doubt means that you don't feel the love in the first place, which goes back to the drawing board and says, hey, if I don't feel love, what is it that I need to feel love? Can I, or do I feel safe enough to ask the person to show me love in this specific manner? And then give them the option to say yes or no, which is the most terrifying thing in the world, mind you, but give them the option to say yes or no so that I can decide if this person is worth hanging on to or if I should cut bait and move on to the next person. But the point is, you won't know unless you give it a chance. You won't know unless you ask for what you need. Why? Because closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't open your mouth and say, hey, I'm hungry, you don't get the option of finding something to eat or having someone order food for you, right? You have no one to blame but yourself at that point. But if you can take the time and the courage to open up and say, hey, you know what? I would love it if you would be more physical with me because I really love hugs or I really love kisses. I really need to feel your skin on me. And it doesn't have to be a sexual thing. It could be just your arm around my shoulder. You could squeeze my shoulder. You have your hand on my back as you walk by. You could, playfully shove me or hug me or any of those things. I need that physical affection because that's the kind of person I am. Maybe you're not a physical affection person. Maybe you need words of affirmation. This is why I teach the 5 love languages. Gary Chapman came up with this theory a while back, but guess what? It really is valid. And even more than that, as I read through the book and I started applying it in my own life, I realized the way I like to receive love and the way I like to give love, 2 different priority lists. But no one teaches you that. And no one teaches you how to recognize it in speech patterns and the complaints that you get from your spouse or your parent or your child to know what it is that they want desperately. Because they don't know how to say it, they don't know how to articulate it, but you would know how to glean that information if you take one of my classes. So, loaded questions come from a place of insecurity. The insecurity is not about your behavior and how you have made them feel insecure. It's about how they feel insecure based on maybe past experiences, maybe on situations that were similar to past experiences that the 2 of you have experienced that they have trouble articulating. They don't ever want to say, I am afraid because. They're going to say, don't do this because I'll cut you off. They're going to say, choose between this, this, and this, so I know where you stand. So I know who my competition is. You understand? So loaded questions where you know you have a bad feeling, a sense of foreboding about answering the question or answering the request at the time. If you have this sense about you that, oh, this is not going to end well, you need to be able to ask the question, hey, what is this about? Hey, what can I do to help you? What is it you really need? How can I serve you or love you better? And it's not for you to suddenly become insecure about whether you love them well or not. It's about whether they've been asking you for what they need or they've been hoping you'll be able to figure it out by osmosis or something, which means they have no one to blame but themselves, but they won't because they expect you to be able to figure it out for them. They assume that they're being very obvious about what they want, which you may not be able to pick up on. This is why I never give hints. I never drop clues. I ask for what I want. Or sometimes I don't. But the point is, I know that I need to specifically ask or I'm not going to get what I want. It's almost like that idea that you go and make 3 wishes from a genie, and you've seen it 1,000 times. They wish for what they want, but they are not specific. So they get what they want, but not specifically what they needed. They ask for, fame and fortune, but they don't have love in their life, but they have the fame and fortune. They have to give the complete idea. They have to ask specifically for what it is that they're looking for. But if they don't learn how to specify, they're going to end up missing things. So ultimately, when you find yourself in a difficult situation, having to answer questions you really don't want to be asking or answering, you need to be able to understand what it is the other person's really asking from you and how can you get to the heart of the matter so you can give them what they're asking for if you're capable. And if you're not, you're going to be able to tell them, hey, you know what? I can't. This is too close to home about something else for me and I'm not comfortable doing this. At that point, yes, there is a fear of rejection, a fear of abandonment. People might walk away if they don't like what you have to say or like the answer that you gave. But guess what? Answering a loaded question could give you the same outcome anyway. They may be looking for a way out and just don't have any other way to do this other than to trap you with a question and then see that, none of the answers would have worked out anyway, and you took the bait and got caught. So if you have any questions about this, please drop me comments. I want to hear from you. But in the meantime, you guys, understand that anytime somebody's insecure, it's about what they feel. It's not necessarily about what you've done. Yes, of course, if you've been cheating on them, if you've been lying to them, if you've not been, upfront about what's going on in the relationship, yeah, you're causing a problem as well. But if you feel for the most part that you've been diligent about how to stay friends with them, how you've been supporting them as much as you possibly can, you are doing the best you can with what you have, and you feel good about the decisions you've made, you have nothing to worry about. The best you can do is ask them what it is that you've done that may have caused some damage or some misunderstanding, and hope to God that they can tell you literally what it is that you did so you can either explain to them what really was going on or try and make amends for what may not have happened in their expectation. Does that make sense? I hope it does, you guys. Let me know what you think. I really want to hear from you. But in the meantime, y'all take care, okay?